What's the dumbest thing your significant other has said or done? Current GF thought that the movie showings during the day were manatee shows. I had to explain to her that they are in fact matinee shows. Edit. Also convinced my ex-wife that the little pepper balls you grind to make pepper were the seeds from a pepperoni plant, and that pepperoni wasn't actually meat and grew straight up out of the ground like an earth dick. I asked him to plant a baby tree in the back garden. The next day I saw it and thought it looked strange. Walked up and it had been planted upside down. He thought the roots were tiny limp branches. Laughed for days. She's not very good with words and English is her first language. I got freezer bite on my hands. Her idioms also need some work. You sound like the wolf who cried you opened up a whole new worm. I had a friend who would screw up sayings regularly. My favorite was, well, you know what they say, you can't lead a horse to water. Apostrophe. I had a kid prior to getting together with my fiancée and having a second daughter. The father of my eldest is not in the picture and my wonderful fiancé has taken her on as his own. To the point that he frequently forgets that she isn't his genetic offspring. We were at a holiday party at his parents' house. I was talking to my future sil about my eldest and her night terrors when fiancé pops off with she gets that from my side of the family. Cue really confused faces all around. His sister sat there and started questioning what other genetic diseases my eldest has magically got from stepdad. It took a few minutes before he figured it out. I love this man. We were driving through some back roads and past a couple pastures. She saw some cows and started very excitedly trying to get my attention, grabbing on my arm and saying, babe, look how fat those horses are. I have never let it go, and she still doesn't think it's funny. We bought a new car. She asked me if I changed the settings to Spanish because it said back quote ajar on the dash when the door was open. IDKY, but this one tripped me up. A good second and half of well, why'd you do that? Just ensued. As I'm in labor with our daughter, my husband asks, do you want her to have an innie or an outie belly button? Weird question. But whatever. So I tell him I don't mind either way. Both are cute. And then he says yeah. But when the doctor asks, which should we pick for her, he thought when they clamp the umbilical cord. Parents tell the doctor the type of belly button they prefer. He's really smart. I promise. Oh golly. When my wife gave birth to our oldest daughter, the doctor offered to let me cut the umbilical cord. I told him surely that's your job. I had no idea that was a thing. I was the oldest of 5 brothers. I'm 5 years older than my next sibling, so I was present for every birth and remember them quite well. My dad wasn't at the hospital for any of them. Usually showed up afterwards, visit for a couple of hours, then leave, like a distant relative. When my daughter was born I did the same and was wondering why my wife was pissed at me for weeks. I'm still dumbfounded how I went 25 years of my life without knowing what to do as an expecting father on the birth of my child. Edit. I think I didn't explain exactly what happened. I was present for her birth, but I wasn't in the delivery room. Due to complications they had to get her out of the room and into an operating room. Only one person was allowed, so I told her mother she could go in with her if she wanted to. I saw her when they brought her into the nursery right after she was born, and I spent a few hours with them at the hospital, but then I went home. I didn't know you were allowed to sleep in there with the newborn and the mother. What I meant was my dad wasn't there for delivery of my siblings, so I didn't think it was a big deal for me not to be there by her side throughout the whole ordeal. I now realize how wrong and shitty this behavior was. When my wife and I started dating in the mid 1980s, she knew I was a huge fan of David Letterman. She said she had a huge surprise for me as she had tickets to see Letterman at a local venue. I was confused since David Letterman did not tour. I looked at the tickets she purchased and they were for the old 60s band The Letterman. We didn't go, but I married her. 30 years this September. One time my husband called me at work. Babe, you're gonna be mad. I made a mess, but don't worry, I'll fix it. I didn't even ask. Just sighed. Because he is basically Lucy from I Love Lucy. When I got home a little bit later, it was to a living room covered in grey powder. My husband completely filthy with a trash bag and broom and a super panicked look on his face. Turned out he'd decided to help around the house and wanted to clean the fireplace. He just decided the best way to do it would be to stand in front of it with a trash bag and use the leaf blower to blow the ashes in. Spoiler, that doesn't work. I didn't want to hurt his feelings, but I laughed my ass off, and it's still one of my favorite weird things he's done. I'll answer for my wife. I had gone to Home Depot to pick up a trailer hitch bolt for my truck. I didn't realize that they had different shaft sizes, and I didn't know which size I needed. So I called my wife and this conversation took place. Me, are you at the house? Huh, yeah. Why, me, can you go out to the driveway and measure the hole in the bumper of my truck? It should be either 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch. There's a pause. Huh, isn't your truck with you? Yes. Yes it was. That was how I had gotten to Home Depot. I forgot. My favorite memory of my parents is going to some fast food joint. Through the drive-thru, mom is driving and giving our orders to the cashier. Just as she finishes, my dad casually says to go my mom. And she turns back to the cashier and says to go. 2 seconds of buffering later and she slaps my dad full on in the chest, who is laughing fucking hysterically. Don't think we've ever let her live that down. I was working the drive-thru and asked if it was for here or to go. There was laughter in the car and the kitchen. Done this a few times. And in my experience it's also fairly common for people to say to go after ordering. My girlfriend in college attended my graduation and afterwards says to me, man, there were a lot of people with the name Lordy. Each time someone was given their degree, it was announced whether they were graduating cum laude or not. My girlfriend thought America's largest family graduated from university with me that day, the Lordy family, and they all looked unrelated. Close bracket. My sister-in-law has a tendency to swallow her T's, so want to becomes wanna. For example, one day, I heard her refer to Annie Bev, Annie Jan, Annie Tressie, etc. I asked my husband, why does your family know so many women named Annie? She was saying auntie. My deeply intelligent wife lost her car, like left it in a parking lot, and somehow got home on Friday. Monday morning I get a text, where's my car? She's gonna finish her medical degree next year. I've driven to and parked somewhere nearby that I usually walk to and walked home. Getting a parking ticket overnight. Open bracket. My boyfriend as we were looking up at the beautiful night sky. Wow. There's so much we don't know about the universe. Like where the stars go during the day. Are they still there? If not, where do they go? He was dead serious. My husband and I were at Canadian Tire and they had tiny examples of tents. Basically looked like they were made for Barbie dolls and the pricing for each underneath. He turned to me shocked and asked, why are these so expensive for such tiny tents? I almost died laughing. My husband had a similar brain fart at Walmart. We were shopping for baby stuff and they had a miniature version of a nursing/rocking chair on display. He says, what's the point of that? I don't think any baby would enjoy sitting in that. Then it dawned on him. My now ex-girlfriend got a Polaroid camera for Christmas. Jokingly one day I said, does it take videos? And she very seriously said, I'm sure it does, but I haven't tried that feature yet. I'm imagining instead of a photo popping out it just starts spitting out frame after frame of movie reel. She seriously thought if she took a video it would print out like a GIF. Like a Harry Potter photo. As we were driving along the road we saw a horse with its head over a gate. We slowed down. She opens the window and says moo. And now that horse is telling all his friends about the time he was yelled at by a cow as it was driving down the road. Slow claps eternally. We were sitting in a bus in the middle of heavy rush hour traffic. I'm kind of a car geek. So I spotted a mint condition 1970s classic Mustang. I just went and said, "Look honey, a car." There were hundreds of them. I don't think she'll let me live this down. We were trying to keep the kids from whining on a long drive and had a contest to see who could find the coolest bird. My husband had just spotted a wild turkey and its babies at the side of the road and proclaimed himself winner. Then I saw hawk or something similar flying low and knew it was better. But I got so excited I just yelled bird. Now he just yells bird at me whenever he sees any bad while driving. Mum picked my dad up from a drink with some friends. Driving down the road he saw a cat and just yelled badger. That one got repeated a lot. She ate cold turkey to try and quit smoking. You're supposed to quit cold turkey, not start it. Everyone knows that. I made the mistake of starting cold turkey. Now I get violent shakes if I go without snorting at least a point of frosted turkey shavings every hour or so. We were on a walk in a rural area with lots of farmers' fields full of sheep and cows. She looks off to a field in the distance, turns around to me and says, "Why do they keep birds in a field?" Worded badly. They were actually birds in the field, but it was in fact an empty field with birds just hanging out, and she thought it was some kind of bird farm. Haha. Look at all those chickens. Points at geese. Late to the party, but my parents have an extremely ugly little dog. Like, this thing is unfortunate. A cross between a chihuahua and some sort of lesser demon. Buddy eyes. Underbite. Just ugly. And she picks on my dogs. So she's not my favorite. But this little creature adores my husband. One day, he came into my parents' house from work. I was already there, and ugly dog runs up to him like she just won the lottery. He scoops her up, laughing, and completely without thinking. He said, "TikTok main. Why is it that only the ugly girls like me?" There was dead silence, and his expression blanched in slow motion. It was like someone looking down and realizing they had shit all over the floor. I said nothing. Just got up and walked outside. The sounds of his pitiful groveling following me. "Not you. I didn't mean you. Oh my god. I'm so sorry. I didn't. I know he meant nothing by it. But to this day my entire family gives him shit for it. He definitely paid for the faux pas. Lol." Once me and my so went for a walk around a local nature reserve. On the way in we got a map given to us so we could navigate the area. Later on the walk she is looking at the map and says to me, "These maps really need a you are here on them." It took me a second to realize what she meant. So I explained that it's a handheld map and that it wouldn't be possible. It took 4/5 attempts before it clicked with her. I love my husband, but I have watched him empty a vacuum cleaner bag into a wire waster basket. I, on the other hand, am frequently unable to remember common words and have to resort to saying things like the box you put stuff in to make it cold. I had an ex who didn't realize that vacuum cleaners had to be emptied. He genuinely thought the vacuum was broken because it was full of fluff and didn't suck anymore. The worst thing was, I believed him that it was broken because it didn't occur to me that someone could think vacuum cleaners magically made dust disappear. I had that, but with a dryer and dryer-lint. Roommate in college claims it isn't drying, so I call the front desk to get them to fix it without bothering to look. Since I was heading to class, I get back later in the day in time to let the maintenance guy in, and he sees the lint trap is full and tells me it needs to be emptied. I already knew that's how it worked, but I felt so stupid calling a guy for that and not checking because I assumed my roommate knew how a friggin' dryer works. Lol. I've told this story elsewhere, but the lint trap is something some people don't realize exists because they were never told about it. I was doing my own laundry for 3 years, 11 to 14, before I complained to my mom about having to run the dryer multiple times and she goes, "Are you emptying the lint trap?" And my poor brain exploded because when she was teaching me how to do laundry she told me how much detergent and what settings, but not about the lint trap. One time while dating my now wife, we got into a playful pinching fight while I was driving. Probably not a great idea, but we were young. She starts getting frustrated and pinching harder. but my right arm was hooked on her left arm, like when you walk together with your arms hooked in movies. She pinched herself and thought it was me. She pinched so hard she screamed and got mad. Her next reaction was what made me almost crash. She doubled down and did it again harder and screamed even louder. Somehow she didn't realize it was her arm the way we were hooked together. Even though in that position I had no way to touch her. She was getting pissed because I was cracking up. Just remembering her anger then confusing always makes me laugh. My wife was running her fingers through her hair and ended up with some loose hairs. So she rolls the window down and sticks her hand out to blow the hair off. She's been using her left hand and so twisted to stick it out the window. This confused her and she short-circuited and began rolling the window up while her arm was still outside the car. So now she's screaming the window won't stop, panics, and shoves her arm further out the window while jiggling the window control making it go up in increments. Each time it does, she waves the hand outside the car in a total panic wave. I'm laughing and almost had to child lock the windows to keep her from closing it on her arm. Finally she stops pushing up on the window control and figures out which arm's which and gets herself fully back in the car. My boyfriend didn't realize Apple Maps gives directions. He called me in a panic because he was lost and didn't know how to get home. I calmly told him to open Maps and type in our address and it'll navigate him home. He wouldn't believe me. He insisted that Apple Maps is just a general map of your nearby area. I pleaded and pleaded with him to just try it and he refused. He eventually made it home an hour later, which I then sat him down and showed him how to use Apple Maps. My boyfriend thought that a sushi roll was a cross section of a raw eel. Amazing how nature do that. Damn. Nature. You tasty. Tried to make baked potatoes in the microwave for the first time. Wrapped them in tinfoil. Came to ask me why there were lightning bolts in the microwave and why was it getting very hot. I went to reheat my tea in one of those travel mugs in the microwave at work once. It was in there sparking for a good 5 seconds before I realized what I'd done. Obligatory me and the boys watching the spoon spark in the microwave. Biggest surprise I got like that was when the ceramic mug had some kind of metallic paint or foil in the design on the mug. Very odd light show. Never came across another mug like that. That's such a bad design choice lol. Lots of people put their mugs in the microwave. I have a dark coffee mug with a little ship on it that I got from Starbucks of all places. Turns out the ship isn't paint, it's some sort of metal, and scared the fuck out of me 2 years after I'd bought it. Somehow I'd never reheated anything in there until last week. We were driving one day and were stopped at a red light. She's looking at a sign and the following exchange occurs. Huh, what a dumb name for a street. Me. Huh, what street? Huh, Bone Marrow Drive. Who would name a street Bone Marrow Drive? It was a sign for a local Bone Marrow Drive that would be taking place. Not the name of the street. We still talk about it to this day. Road work ahead. Yeah, I sure hope it does.